But yes, I mean, this would be global war, full blown. It's something that I don't think China wants. It's something that I don't think anybody else wants. It's yes, new details emerge on the Ismail Haniyeh assassination. It was a bomb that was smuggled into the guest room that the IRGC literally, in a building that the IRGC straight up controlled 2 months prior, knowing full well that that's where Ismail Haniyeh stays when he visits Tehran. Kind of crazy, you know.
Funeral of Hamas official in Tehran, where he was killed in a missile attack that Iran blames on Israel. Deborah Patter reports from East Jerusalem.
Mourning the death of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, the funeral procession made its way through the streets of Tehran. Leading the prayers, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has promised a harsh punishment for the murder of a guest in his country. Hamas blames Israel for the brazen pre-dawn assassination, saying he was killed by a missile. More than 24 hours later, details remain murky. Israel has not claimed responsibility, but the implications of the strike are potentially explosive, pushing a region already on edge even closer to the prospect of oil.
Why are they sad Hamas leader is dead? What do you mean? There was a peace negotiation. There was a ceasefire negotiation happening that Israel refused to abide by. And then they assassinated the guy that was literally doing the peace negotiation. The guy that they assassinated was the principal negotiator on the Palestinian side. He doesn't have any like arms training. He doesn't know how to fucking fight like that. He is functionally a diplomat. And Israel was like, yeah, this is what we think about the fucking peace deal. They just assassinated the guy doing the peace deal. Anyway.
All-out war.
I think both sides on the one hand do not want things to get out of control, do not want what they call an open war. On the other hand, both sides both sides do not want to be the one that takes the step back.
As the political face of Hamas, Haniyeh was also the man sitting in the same room as the Israelis trying to hammer out a hostage deal. That could now be in jeopardy.
When you kill the person you negotiate with, what is the intention? The intention is to kill any possibility for peace.
Today marks 300 days of Hamas captivity for hostages in Gaza.
That's crazy. I hate this fucking framing. Oh, 300 days of Hamas captivity. How about 300 days of genocide too? You know? Come on. You can't bring up the fucking hostages unless you're going to talk about how Israel has no interest whatsoever in releasing the fucking hostages.
Will be countrywide protests calling it 300 days of abandonment.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to vow to defeat Hamas. His military announced just this morning it had killed another one of the October 7 masterminds, Mohammed Deif, in a massive strike over 2 weeks ago. Hamas, however, says he is still alive. Major?
Deborah Patta in East Jerusalem. Thank you very much.
More breaking news right now, and this coming from the Middle East. Tensions skyrocketing there after assassinations this week, and we are getting right now some brand new details about exactly how the assassination of the Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh went down. And these are incredible details that Jeremy Diamond is breaking. He's in Haifa, Israel, in northern Israel right now. And Jeremy, these details are pretty stunning.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Aaron. I mean, this was a quite sophisticated operation. I'm told by a source familiar with the matter that Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran early yesterday morning using a bomb that was covertly hidden in the guest house where he was staying. But this bomb, I'm told, was actually covertly planted inside that guest house about 2 months ago, and it was only remotely detonated once it was clear that Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas's political leader, was actually inside his room inside of that guest house.
It's crazy. So shocking. Definitely not Israel, by the way. Yeah. I mean, Israel is the #1 at planting bombs in hotels. So they're pretty good with that shit for sure. They're just pretty good at assassinations in general. They've been doing that a lot. Unless it's Klaus Barbie, in which case they don't mysteriously assassinate him, possibly because he's now an American asset at that point. But yeah, they're pretty good at blowing up hospitals. They're pretty good at blowing up everything.
When that bomb was detonated, he was killed alongside his bodyguard, who was also there. Now, we should note that Israel has still neither confirmed nor denied its involvement in this. Iranian officials and Hamas have said that Israel was behind this attack. I'm also told that Israeli officials actually briefed U.S. officials on this operation, but only after it took place, only after we learned that Ismail Haniyeh had been killed in.
What are the proofs that it's Israel? I assume Israel says it's not them. So what proof do Palestine use against them? I don't know what the Palestinian proof is, but the IDF did post about target eliminated, like on Facebook, immediately after he was killed. Then they deleted it. Also, you know, the obvious implications, motives, the fact that the United States of America openly stated we were not informed by Israel on this operation. You know, just like everything, the fact that there are the fact that there aren't really any other actors that would do such a thing. Didn't they try to do the same thing about you with the hospital bombing that people bring up all the time to try to own you over? Yeah. The fact that Israel has killed negotiators in the past in the midst of a negotiation. The fact that Israel also killed a bunch of other high-profile military members that were like Hezbollah people in that same time frame in the 48 hours. Yeah. The fact that they're mostly celebrating this assassination as well and flexing on the timeline about it. Why do you care that the leader of a terrorist organization was assassinated? Number one, Israel is a significantly larger terror organization than Hamas. They are significantly better at doing terror in comparison to Hamas. Hamas are like not even baby terrorists in comparison to what Israel has done. That's number one. Number two, the person that Israel assassinated was the principal negotiator in a ceasefire deal that would see the release of 150 Israeli, some of which are American, citizens that have, well, most of them are IDF soldiers at this point, but are prisoners of war and hostages that Hamas has captured for 300 days. You don't do that. You just don't kill the fucking principal negotiator, especially when he is the chief of the Politburo and is not affiliated with the military wing. He's also seen as a more moderate figure within the Palestinian, within Palestinian liberation, within within especially the structure of Hamas. So that's what it is. It's one thing to assassinate Haniyeh. It's another to do it specifically in Tehran. It's genuinely hard to imagine, let alone put in the words the seriousness of what comes next. Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought too, but I think Iran, they're like relying on Iran not wanting the smoke. Killing, destroying the peace negotiation representative when you want to keep the war going? Yeah. Is it true that there is a provision in the Hamas charter which says that negotiations with Israel are against Islamic law except if used as a ruse? I don't know, but that sounds like a really funny lie that you would read on Reddit, like as a comment, like as a sub comment 35 points down in a conversation. Why would they put that in the charter, chatter? Think about that. Why would they reveal their hand in the charter? No, not even in the 1988 charter. Come on, man. News is going crazy lately. What the Sigma? Yeah. Here is my evil plan. Under Islamic law, I will Islamically do my evil bidding.
In this. What's also interesting here is that this guest house was actually under the control of Iran's.
The CNN correspondent literally just said Israel briefed the U.S. about the operation after it happened. If it wasn't Israel, why would they brief the U.S.? Much to think.
Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And so this represents a stunning breach of security for them, a very big embarrassment for the IRGC. And we've reached out to Iranian officials for comment on this, but we know, of course, that we heard yesterday from Iran's supreme leader vowing revenge, saying that Israel has, quote, paved the way for your harsh punishment. This assassination has put this region on a knife's edge. In addition, of course, to the Israeli strike in Beirut just hours before this that took out a senior Hezbollah commander. There are now threats of retaliation, not only from Iran, but also from Hezbollah and Hamas, putting this region and this area where I am right now in northern Israel very much on edge as the possibility of retaliation now looms. Aaron.
Thank you very much, Jeremy Diamond. Cedric Layton joins me now. Colonel Cedric Layton. Colonel, Jeremy's reporting is really stunning. And he mentioned this, but let's just emphasize this again. He is reporting that ostensibly, some Israeli operative, although they have not confirmed their involvement, planted an IED in Tehran in a guest house controlled by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the elite.
Nasrallah also spoke today. Seems a pretty serious response also coming from them in addition to Iran. Nasrallah, this is from Timur Azari, Iraq bureau chief of Reuters. Hassan Nasrallah, general secretary of Hezbollah, the leader of Hezbollah in Lebanon, has said, he noted that Israel hit a civilian building in the capital suburbs, killing civilians and a top leader. This indicates Hezbollah could strike at or near a major Israeli city, going for a mixed military/civilian target. The Iranian media, by the way, and the resistance is actually saying that it was not an improvised explosion, an IED or a bomb that was planted in this building, but instead it was like a rocket or a drone, I think. But I don't know. Israel also evacuated some of the forces into shelters to save them. Nice. The media malpractice is wild. They're simply not covering that he was a primary peace negotiator and was assassinated. No, they covered it. Like even American media was like, yeah, this guy was literally seen as a moderate in comparison to Yahya Sinwar. And not only that, but also he is he was the principal negotiator.
IRGC 2 months ago, and then remotely detonated it when they knew that the guy they wanted to get was actually staying in that house. Holy cow.
Yeah, holy cow is right, Aaron. This is a classic operation, kind of in line with.
Do I think Iran has the capacity to take on Israel? Bro, there is no taking on Israel. Taking on Israel means taking on the United States of America. Okay? But ultimately, I think America and the rest of the Western world have a lot more to lose in a situation like that. What do I mean by this? Because Israel benefits from being a steadfast ally and firmly within the ecosystem that the West has created, right? Imperial core countries have a lot to lose in any kind of destabilization, right? You say that like the U.S. never lost a war. No, they have. That's what I'm beginning to explain. So imperial core countries live a life of luxury in comparison to the global South. If there is a war with Iran, Iran wouldn't just target Israel, okay? They would target by way of their resistance groups that they have planted strategically that, came out of allegiances that they have cut together with, even Sunni groups like Hamas or the Ansar Allah administration in Yemen, allegiances that they've created and numerous groups in both Syria and Iraq, that they could immediately start targeting oil refineries in Saudi Arabia. All of America's allies in the region, all the Gulf states would be at risk. So things would get really frustrating for people in America very quickly. It wouldn't just be like, oh, this is a war far away. Who gives a shit? Whatever. Maybe some American service members die in the process, but we can just kind of not talk about that like in Afghanistan. It would turn into a complete collapse of the global economy as a consequence of oil prices skyrocketing. There would be a genuine global economic crisis. There would be a genuine global economic crisis, specifically because the price of a fucking barrel of oil would shoot up so much. Surely Iran isn't crazy enough to take on the entire Gulf in the West. I think that's part of the reason why they're not responding in kind, but instead responding in a very restrained way so far. But yes, I mean, this would be global war, full blown. It's something that I don't think China wants. It's something that I don't think anybody else wants. It's something that I think is so severe that Benjamin Netanyahu thinks he can get away with opening up a second front and potentially a third front and pull America in and keep this limited. But let me tell you, you would not enjoy this at all. None of us would, which is why I've been saying since early October that America has to restrain Israel. Meanwhile, Hitler Yahoo is doing the exact same shit that Hitler did, just out of his goddamn mind. And we seemingly are in a motherfucking suicide pact with him.
The US will send more warships and fighter jets to the Middle East to help protect Israel from potential attacks by Iran and its allies, according to the Pentagon. Tensions are high in the region following the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iran and a key commander of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Missile defense forces are on increased readiness, and the Pentagon emphasized its ironclad commitment to defend Israel. Iran's leader Ayatollah Khamenei has promised harsh punishment against Israel for Haniyeh's assassination. Haniyeh, who was killed in Tehran on Wednesday, was considered Hamas's overall leader and played a significant role in ceasefire negotiations in the Gaza war. His death occurred just hours after Israel announced it had killed the top military commander of Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Pentagon stated that the new deployments would improve US force protection, increased support for the defense of Israel.
The tradition of Israeli intelligence going back, almost to the founding of Israel. And what the Israelis, if they did this, what they were able to do, as Jeremy pointed out, was breach security in a really remarkable way. The IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, is very much in control of a lot of different aspects of Iranian life, but they weren't in direct control of this guest house, which was ostensibly their own guest house. And whoever breached this, and the supposition is
yeah, U.S. can't defend Israel plus every oil field in the Middle East at the same time. I mean, I don't think even the Iron Dome itself, no matter how fucking hard the American defenses try to stop like a full-blown Iranian missile strike with Hezbollah and with fucking Yemen, like there's just no way. There's no way, dude. That would be a shit ton of people dying in Israel. And that's what I mean. Like one death inside of Israel or one death in America is worth so much more in the eyes of Americans than like hundreds of Iranians dying, like even in terms of the calculation, like when all when you were born in Yemen and all known your whole life is genocide and famine as a consequence of Western-backed forces with Saudi Arabia and UAE conducting a man-made famine and creating a genocide in your country, like when 100 of your friends fucking died, that's like every other day. That's something that you have experienced in your life. But when you're living in Israel and you're like a marketing executive and you go and you eat your pizza palace and you go and you eat at the pizza palace and you play the shittiest techno music of all time. You're like living a normal life in luxury for the most part. When one person in your country dies, that is something significantly more dramatic because it's like out of the norm. That's why 9/11 was so significant, right? America's geopolitical condition, like its position on the planet, sheltered it from the worst aspects of World War II because it was so fucking far away. Okay. That's why 9/11 was so goddamn significant. It's like, holy shit, 3,000 Americans died on American soil with a foreign-born attack. That was unimaginable. For people in Iraq, that's like, that's like a combination of, maybe a week of America's most intense bombing. For people in Afghanistan, it's the same. Maybe not to the same number, but like, maybe not the same number of casualties, but it's a month-long conquest. Over the course of years and years of occupation that America engaged in these countries, they're significantly more used to it. The Israeli air defenses would be overwhelmed 100%. Most of the projectiles, such as ballistic missiles, would need to be intercepted by David Sling and Arrow air defense systems, which have far fewer interceptors than the Iron Dome. Yeah.
That it was Israel, but whoever did this did a remarkable job, and the fact also has to be noted that this was not detected for probably over 2 months, if Jeremy's reporting is and his sources are accurate. So that really indicates that people were quite frankly overcome by their own sloppiness in this particular case, and this very fact on the Iranian side shows that Israel has been been able to penetrate their security apparatus quite a bit. And that, of course, signals some major weaknesses in the Iranian structure.
I mean, Jeremy, just to emphasize this, and I know, obviously, I don't know if your reporting is how detailed it is on the form of an IED, but you have an improvised explosive device inside a guest house, which would presumably mean no one was sweeping it or checking it before this Hamas leader came in, or in fact, any time in the past 2 months, which would seem to be just a really basic point of protocol.
Yeah, look, we don't know exactly what kind of explosive device this was. We don't know exactly where it was hidden, whether this was something that could have evaded the typical checks that the IRGC would conduct on this. But I think one clear failure of security here is the fact that this guest house, the reason why this bomb was planted there is because it was a guest house where Ismail Haniyeh was known to have stayed. And so this indicates that Haniyeh was a repeat guest in this same location, which is obviously a major security vulnerability that the Israelis appear to have exploited here. And so we don't know exactly how this happened, but there's no question that there will be major questions asked.
I do like that we are not like that one chatter was like operating on yesterday's talking points of like, well, do we know if it was Israel? What proof do you have? When like virtually every outlet was like, yeah, of course it's Israel. Come on, dog. Like, and we've totally moved past that.
Within the IRGC, within Iran's top political and military echelons about how this could have possibly happened. And I also think it's notable that yesterday Iranian state media was reporting that this was a rocket that was fired from outside into this guest house that actually killed Haniyeh. But the fact—
Do you trust the missile story or the bomb story? I trust the bomb story.
That it was actually something that was planted in the guest house suggests even additional layers of failure. It also makes clear that this was not fired by a drone or by a fighter jet that would have violated Iranian airspace. So that also may factor into how Iran chooses to retaliate for this assassination.
And that's a significant point as well. Colonel, it also, though what Jeremy's saying, does just make one thing sort of unbelievably clear. So let's just say it in black and white. That means a human being is involved who's in Tehran, who actually gets access to this guest house and plants something. At some point, there is a human being infiltration, which is different than what Jeremy's saying they had originally been put out there about a rocket.
This questions the bomb story and gives a reason as to why. The Iranian intelligence is insisting on an air-to-surface missile is responsible for the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. The leaks coming from Israel want to establish that a bomb was planted. Israel's want to portray the attack as an intelligence operation to keep it under the category of shadow war, but Iran seems to have decided to deal with the attack as military aggression. Oh, that makes sense as to why. Wait, that also means that like that's because Iran wants to retaliate. This is an Al Jazeera reporter as well, by the way. Hezbollah's air defenses repel Israeli war jets flying over southern Lebanon, obliging them to retreat back to the occupied Palestinian airspace. Hezbollah has begun a massive bombardment of northern Israel, and videos of rocket impacts are being shared. Hezbollah is reportedly weakening the Iron Dome so that the Iranian missiles and drones can successfully penetrate, possibly en route or about to be launched soon. Wait, do we know that this is happening right now? Iran posted their red flag of vengeance. So did Hezbollah, by the way, as in they have both vowed to take action. This happened, it was earlier, like 2 to 3 hours ago. Oh, okay. Axios reported a few hours ago that U.S. intelligence believes that Iran is preparing for April-style missile attack, and U.S. forces are mobilizing the same as well. What is this? Iran has officially informed the UN of its intent to carry out a retaliatory action of self-defense against Israel in accordance with Article 51 of the UN Charter. I don't know how accurate Global News, the Twitter account, is. Do Americans really want another war in the sandbox, though? A lot of Americans and Westerners are having more of an isolationist stance. I mean, it doesn't matter what Americans want. Chatters, what you want is completely insignificant, especially when it comes to foreign policy. There's no better representation of this than our undying loyalty, seemingly, to the state of Israel, no matter how fucking aggressive, how violent, and how ridiculous Israel gets with its belligerent actions in the region.
A drone, right, which could be completely done remotely. That shows actual physical human involvement, Colonel.
It does, absolutely. And it
This
is
is the
really
readout.
a classic case of...
This is the readout of the conversation that took place. where they discussed with Netanyahu the U.S. efforts to support Israel's defense against threats, including against ballistic missiles. Dude, this is, in my opinion, consistently teaching Israel the wrong lessons. Like telling them over and over again that, yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want, and we are going to defend you. Like, we're going to defend you from the consequences. It's so weird. Like, why would they do anything else? Why would they do anything else? Why should they do anything else? You know what I mean? When you keep telling them like, oh yeah, no, we're going to defend you no matter what. We're going to defend you no matter what. Every time you fuck up, every time you keep increasing the pressure, like then yeah, of course they're going to keep doing it. Holy shit. President Biden spoke today with the Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel. The president reaffirmed his commitment to Israel's security against all threats from Iran, including his proxy terrorist groups Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. The president discussed efforts to support Israel's defense against threats, including against ballistic missiles and drones, to include new defensive U.S. military deployments. Together with his commitment to Israel's defense, the president stressed the importance of ongoing efforts to de-escalate broader tensions in the region. Vice President Harris also joined the call. Dude, no, if you want to fucking de-escalate at this point, you got to be like, you're all on your own, dog. I wasn't there. I didn't fucking kill Ismail Haniyeh. I've been telling you over and over again that you fucking should do a ceasefire deal. You're actually fucking up the bag for my party's reelection. You're on your own, big dog. That's what America should say. Cut off military aid, and Israel will very quickly change tune. What is this? The VP landed in Atlanta and told the traveling press pool, Israel has the right to defend itself, adding, in particular against a terrorist organization, which is exactly what Hezbollah is. She empathized. We still must work on a diplomatic solution to end the war. Did anyone ask her about how the nuclear-armed country we have pledged unconditionally give our most advanced weapon systems forever is in an active pro-rape insurrection supported by several members of the Knesset? Would that not be a relevant thing to ask? I think so. I think that's a good question to ask. Iran's supreme leader has issued an order for Iran to strike Israel. Yeah, this was yesterday as well. I mean, this is from yesterday. Like, stopping the mere threat of stopping arms shipments would just stop Israel so quickly. I just don't understand.
They turned out in their tens of thousands in the Iranian capital to
Here's
mourn
what it looks
Ismail
like in
Haniyeh,
Tehran,
that
in the
Hamas
Middle East
leader
right
many
now.
had hoped would steer negotiations to a lasting ceasefire in Gaza.
I gotta pee.
It was an audacious attack which killed him, arousing furious sentiment in Iran. The supreme leader, who regarded him as a friend and guest in his country, has warned the attack cannot go unanswered. It was an attack which violates Iranian sovereignty, he's told the nation. It's also a major intelligence embarrassment, with American media outlets reporting the explosive device responsible had been smuggled into his Tehran accommodation nearly 2 months ago. It coincided with the funeral in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, for a key Hezbollah commander, killed by the Israelis 12 hours earlier. That too has drawn a furious reaction from the militant group, which is a close Iranian ally. The signals seem to be an attack is coming.
We are facing a big battle now. It's beyond the support front now. There's a battle in Gaza, one in South Lebanon, an open battle in Yemen, and even in Iraq, because it's all happening at the same time.
It's not just in the refugee camps of Beirut that they're trying to decipher what Hezbollah is planning, but there's a feeling of inevitability about more violence. We face death before, this woman tells us. We're ready to die if necessary to defend ourselves. Another man says, we will accept whatever Nasrallah decides. So there seems to be little doubt now that there is going to be some sort of reaction. And all the indications are that it's going to draw in all the partners of the so-called axis of resistance, not just Iran, not just Hezbollah here in Lebanon, but also their fighting partners in Iraq, Yemen and Syria. And that is what is seriously worrying the region.
I suppose the counter thought to that threatening arms cutoff will stop Israel is that it would make them go even more hog wild, that they have nothing to lose while they still have weapons. Yeah, but they don't have. See, the beauty of threatening to cut Israel's arms, the beauty of that entire process is that because they are so fucking belligerent and have not stopped with their endless bombing campaign, they don't exactly have a solid backlog of weapons. It's not like they're sitting on a fucking massive pile or a surplus. They are fully dependent. This entire thing also is on the verge of collapse regardless, right? Because the Israeli economy is tanking. A ton of Israeli people have fled the country. Okay. Northern Israel, all of these people that live there have had to leave northern Israel. The Israeli port has had a severe decrease of traffic and trade in general. They are literally losing everything. Okay. This is the issue. All of these like reservists are now back in rotation. They're serving in the IDF. Yeah, 30% of their workers are not working. They're on the front lines, killing babies. Like, this was back in February. Israel's economy shrinks more than expected on Gaza war. GDP fell by 19% on an annualized basis in the fourth quarter of 2023. That's the equivalent of a fall off of 5% between October and December. That was in February.
On Tel Aviv's seafront, the atmosphere seems relaxed, with sunbathers lounging under beach umbrellas. However, there is little doubt that the Middle East is on the brink of full-scale war. Israel remains on high alert, and several international airlines have suspended flights to the country. Over the weekend, Israeli ministers were provided with satellite phones to ensure communication in case of an infrastructure attack. Earlier on Saturday, Israeli forces killed a Hamas operative in the West Bank. In the last 24 hours, dozens of Palestinians have reportedly been killed in strikes on Gaza, underscoring that Israel's conflict in the region persists despite diplomatic efforts to prevent its escalation. The US military had previously increased deployments on April 13th when Iran launched an attack on Israel with drones and missiles, nearly all of which, about 300, were intercepted by Israel and its allies.
This war is absolutely propping up their economy? What? No, it's not. It's not propping up their economy at all. If they were a country like Russia or a country like the United States of America that have their own arms that they're manufacturing and using, it would be a self-feeding cycle. You don't think so? No, I know it's not the case because they're not a fucking weapons producer. They do like obviously surveillance tech. They do a bunch of like different shit. They produce weapons as well, but not to the same degree as like the United States or especially the type of weapons that we're talking about. Like we're talking about missiles, right? Russia and the United States, when there's a war going on, can prop up their own economy because they have a war economy, they have industry. For reference, they were minus 19% in quarter 4, 2023. USA was plus 3.2 in the same quarter. Also, the irony is like we play a big role in paying their fucking military as well, which makes me even more annoyed. The region is on the this is what Trita Parsi says from the Quincy Institute. The region is on the verge of a war that Netanyahu has triggered, a war that is designed to suck the U.S. into it. And this is all Biden had to say to Netanyahu. Oh, we got to de-escalate tensions. They're asleep on the fucking wheel, dude. Here, this is from July 18th. Israelis leaving the country permanently spiked 285% after October 7, but stabilized since. The Israeli Defense Ministry has signaled a massive NIS $1.5 billion, $340 million, dollar deal with the Israeli defense firm Elbit Systems for ammunition and munitions for the military. Yeah. Too little too late, don't you think? You can't put that shit up that quickly and then immediately start manufacturing. Do you see what I'm saying? This they're doing because they want to fucking not be so reliant on the West. Also, fuck Elbit Systems, by the way. That is like one of the number one targets that all manner of like Western Palestinian student groups and Palestinian defense groups target on a regular fucking basis. If Netanyahu's goal is to take over Palestine, why should he risk dragging Iran into the war by performing an assassination in Tehran? Surely that could only make it harder for them. Wait, what? Netanyahu's goal is just to continue this war. It's not even to entirely end this war. It's to just continue it. That's his own personal motivation. Killing the principal negotiator aids in that process. What? The first mistake they made was the location? Iranian sources just shared this photo. Netanyahu's surveillance in Tel Aviv by Iran. The first mistake they made was the location. That's not Tel Aviv. That's the American embassy in Jerusalem. Quite a security lapse regardless. Just unclear why that caption has been going around as the location is wrong. Haaretz reports 1 in 4 Israeli Jews would leave Israel to another country if they could. New survey finds. Nearly half of Israel's Arab citizens say they would emigrate if given the practical opportunity, according to the latest monthly survey by the Jewish... wait, what? Arab citizens? But then it says 1 in 4 Israeli Jews. Oh, half of Israelis half of Israel's Arab population would say they'd leave. A quarter of Israel's Jewish population would say they'd leave. Yo, Israel's the safest place for Jews, though, bro. Without Israel, there would be no safe place, dude. I mean, I know there's Israeli Jews in this chat that are desperately trying to leave. It makes sense. I mean, it especially makes sense for these guys in here because, you know, they're fucking surrounded by the most hostile anti-communist freaks you can get. But Israel's desperate to replace Palestinian farmhands. Newly arrived Indian workers say abuse is common. Is sad as fuck that the world is forever going to be changed for the worse because of one stupid pig can't let go of power? It's not just one stupid pig that can't let go of power. Because obviously there's a lot of appetite for destruction. There's straightforward demands for death and destruction from the Israeli population. So it's not necessarily just one person's fault. But one person is like the most responsible. But let's make no mistake. There's a big chunk of the Israeli population that doesn't recognize the danger that is coming their way, the collapse that is so inevitable that you can fucking taste it.
The new British Foreign and Defence Secretaries flew into Beirut for urgent meetings with Lebanese officials to de-escalate the tensions. Hezbollah is not around the table. Britain's amongst a raft of countries who designate them a terrorist organisation.
One thing that Israeli Jews that are really fucking aggro about continuing this genocide don't actually factor into their calculation, even though 1/4 of Israeli Jews want to leave Israel if given the opportunity, is that this is also spiking anti-Semitism everywhere. Like definitely in the global south, but certainly in the Western world as well. Because of the way that Israel has packaged this death and destruction under the auspices of like protecting Judaism as this monolithic force that is completely aligned. And the media playing a dangerous game, also repeating that line and consistently deploying the anti-Semitism accusations to anyone that dare declare that what Israel is doing is wrong, especially avoiding the coverage of all of those people who are Jewish themselves, who are anti-Zionists, who are out there in the fucking streets. Like all that shit is so dangerous. All that shit is so goddamn dangerous in terms of like anti-Semitism skyrocketing in this fucking country and in all of the countries in the Western world. You have not lived the global south version of Islam. What the fuck are you saying? What does that have to do with anything, big dog? What are you? Oh my Lord, dude. Yeah, I only saw the Turkish version of Islam. Yet, doesn't that make you understand that there is no monolithic Islam either? Nope, doesn't matter. I like that this is the lighter version of doing casual Islamophobia, which is like, okay, there are some Muslim countries that aren't like the same as others. It's not like we had a handle on anti-Semitism pre-October 7th. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But this is like anti-Semitism has always been there because it is at the heart of fascist thinking, right? And it kind of stems from the liberal attitudes that people have. It's anti-materialist. What do I mean by this? People love good, bad narratives. Some people are good, some people are bad. There's always a war being waged between good and evil. That's not the truth. People are products of their circumstances. People are directly impacted by their own material conditions, okay? And the constant push and pull leads people into doing bad things, leads people into doing good things, what you would consider to be good or bad, okay? However, liberals don't believe that because they're anti-materialists. So they believe some people are good, some people are bad. This is a major weakness that can easily be exploited by fascists. Because ultimately, if you think some people are bad, that's going to lead you into consistently trying to find an outgroup that is bad. That is just fascism, right? Fascism is ultranationalism. It's ultranationalism attached to an intractable, unchangeable trait. It can be your race, it can be nationality, it can be religion, but it's basically something that is like there's a broadly defined outgroup and then there's a broadly defined in-group. That's just what fascism is. And it works so perfectly within the confines of liberal thinking. What do I mean by this? Everyone always ends up saying, well, there's one group of shadowy figures that have always been the villain in society. Who's that group? Jews. After all, they're responsible for the death of Jesus Christ. After all, time and time again, whenever there's like famine, who's to blame? The Jews. That's what has always happened throughout history. And the Nazis basically serialized that shit. Okay? They took it especially from the Russians originally, Tsarist Russia, and they streamlined it. So that's why liberal ways of thinking, like good, bad dynamics like this, almost always lend itself so perfectly to who the bad guys are. Well, it must be this group of individuals. They're very successful after all, despite all of the shortcomings that they've experienced. Like, that's how you create anti-Semitic sentiment. That's how you push anti-Semitic sentiment. And when Israel is doing actual cartoon villain shit on a daily fucking basis, and like dumb Americans that watch the TV see the cartoon villain shit sometimes on TikTok, and then when they turn on CNN and CNN is like, the Jewish state is the most, the most moral state you've ever seen. When they see their fucking politicians clap for Benjamin Netanyahu like a bunch of goddamn trained SEALs, okay? They're like, well, what the fuck? I guess Jews do have some kind of weird mind control over the American Congress and the media. That is literally just Jews control the media. That's the narrative. That is what anti-Semites believe. And I don't think a lot of people understand. A lot of people do not recognize that like they are feeding into this anti-Semitic sentiment when, they don't cover what is going on accurately. And when they constantly say, like when the president comes out and says, Israel's a Jewish state, I'm a Zionist, I love Zionism, Zionism is the best, and that without Israel, no Jew would be safe on the planet. When you're the American president and there's literally more Jews living in the United States of America at any given point than Israel, what the fuck do you mean? Like, how can you say such a stupid fucking thing? That is how right-wingers will, one, weaponize anti-Semitism, use the media coverage, and basically massage that narrative, not to one that is materialist and not to one that, dictates like, hey, it's actually not like some secret hypnosis power that Jews have collectively, or that Jewish people have the power of mind control, or they control the media or anything like that. But instead, it's America's State Department interest. It's also evangelical Christianity that dictates that like Armageddon will happen if Jews control Israel. And that creates a big fucking base of support within the Republican Party that, what is this? Palingenesis, yes, ultra-nationalist. This refers to the rebirth or the recreation of a nation, ultra-nationalism. This extreme nationalism that prioritizes the interests of one nation or ethnic group above all others. Yeah. Like, people don't understand it. People legitimately don't fucking understand why the fuck we're giving unlimited, unconditional support to Israel. That's a perfectly valid question to ask, right? So for many people who are not going to engage in this critically and go, well, Israel is an unsinkable aircraft carrier with its own espionage facilities in a resource-rich region, and that's why it's one of our most valuable allies on the fucking planet. People don't want to think like that. That's too complicated for them. So they think in their minds, oh, it's because Jews control American government and American media. That's a much easier narrative to align with. That's a much easier narrative to understand.
The government's warning the 5,000 Britons thought to be in Lebanon to leave immediately. And the Foreign Secretary told us he believes this is a critical point.
My job as Foreign Secretary in this critical moment is to be speaking to all sides and to be urging caution, urging calm heads, and to be absolutely clear. It is no one's interest in this region or in the global community to see a global crisis, a regional war, effectively, in this part of the world.
But Israel appears to be preparing for the worst, with the Prime Minister gathering his top team for civil protection.
Israel is at a very high level of readiness for any scenario, both defensively and offensively. We will exact a very high price for any act of aggression against us from any arena.
The twin attacks on two capitals have plunged the region into more uncertainty. And whilst all parties say they don't want all-out war, that is getting ever closer. Alex Crawford.
I think there is one party here that is saying they want all-out war. That party is Israel. The idea that like one party is actually against all-out war is so silly.
Sky News, Beirut.
I mean, that's crazy. They literally hit a Iranian consulate. Then they turned around and assassinated the fucking guy that was the principal negotiator on the ceasefire deal in Tehran.
The bold assassination of Hania was a significant embarrassment for Iran's Revolutionary Guards, who are responsible for protecting visiting foreign dignitaries and coordinating the axis of resistance. A coalition of regional militias funded and supported by Iran, including Hezbollah and Hamas. Iran has vowed to avenge Hania's killing on its territory. However, Shukr's assassination could prove to be an even more explosive issue, as it touches the highly sensitive Israel-Lebanon border, a flashpoint that has nearly triggered a regional war beyond Gaza. During Shukr's funeral on Thursday, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, speaking via video link, declared that his group would retaliate for the commander's killing and warned that the conflict with Israel had entered a new phase. Nasrallah stated that Israel has crossed a red line by attacking Hareth Reik, a densely populated Shia neighborhood in southern Beirut, home to many Hezbollah leaders and offices. Previously, Nasrallah has threatened to launch missiles and rockets at Tel Aviv in response to any Israeli attacks on Beirut or its suburbs. Shukr, a longtime Hezbollah official, was reportedly close to Imad. A full-scale war between Israel and Hezbollah, similar to the conflict in the summer of 2006, could draw Israel and the US into a broader conflict with Iran and its allies. Iran has utilized militias including Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and several Shia groups in Iraq and Syria to target Israeli and US interests throughout the region, aiming to increase pressure on them to halt the Gaza war. If you found this video informative, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and thanks for watching.